The Beretta APX Centurion. Let's check it out. Now, while Beretta is a 500-year-old company and the oldest in the industry, a lot of times that will slow companies down. They just don't stay relevant because they're so big. They've been around so long. It's one of the things about Beretta, though, that they stay relevant. Now, they were kind of slow in introducing their Striker Fire line, which the APX is the first of that line. But man, they have done an excellent job. Now, one thing about these handguns, of course, up front, is you'll notice the slide. It is so different, but it's very purposeful. We've reviewed the full size, we've reviewed the compact. We're going to take a look today at the Centurion. It is the mid-size, really close to the size of the Glock G19, which is one of those sweet spots. But one of the things that the APX does that a lot of others don't is that it has the modular frame. So we can take different grip frames and put on here, and there are a lot of different options, different colors. There's, of course, a couple of different sizes. And this really comes into play with people that live in states that have a lot of restrictions, whether it's delays or it's just a pain in the rear end. This allows you to have options with the same gun, yet for different purposes. This video is brought to you in part by the Sportsman's Guide. If you go to the Sportsman's Guide website and you order $100, you get $20 off using SOOCH in the coupon code. Now, the Centurion does come in 9mm. It comes in .40 caliber. This is a 3.7-inch barrel. It has of course, polymer frame, Striker Fire. The slide is just very unique. It's one of the first things, obviously, everybody notices about the APX. Let's go ahead and make sure the gun is unloaded. We're going to drop the magazines, check the chamber, and it's unloaded. You do get two 15-round magazines. They're good, high-quality mags, and the gun also fits the full size. And Gun Mag Warehouse was kind enough to send some extra mags for us to do this test, but they do have the orange followers, which I like. But this, of course, is a 17-round mag, and you do have a little bit of an extension, but it still fires. Then they have the compact, which is 13-in-1, and it will not fit, obviously. It just doesn't get up to the magazine catch. But again, 15-in-1 is excellent for this size handgun. Now, one thing that I really like about the grip is these pyramids that are on the back strap and the front strap. It's like checkering, and it just really gives you a solid grip. I mean, it makes it to where the gun is not going to shift or adjust in your hand when firing. But we still have these panels that are on the side. Now, these are, of course, removable, and we'll look at that in a minute, but you can switch these out to the different sizes. It does have a really high beaver tail effect, and so you can really get your hand up under the handgun, and yet it still has a very low bore axis. And so that really allows this gun to shoot very flat. It was one of the things that honestly surprised me a little bit, because it seemed like to me, and I guess it's the way the serrations are on the slide, it seemed like that it would, it would want to be a little top heavy. But that was not the case. It just fires very well and just very flat. I love that because you can get those second, third follow-up shots really easily. Now, we do have our mag release, which is fairly large, teardrop shape, and it does eject the magazines out. And then, of course, it can be switched to the other side. And then we have our slide stop right here, and we have an ambidextrous on the other side. You do have a 1913 Picatinny rail. It does have the two slots, And of course we have our takedown lever here. We'll look at that in a minute. The slide is almost more of a gray gunmetal color. I mean, it's a really dark gray, but it complements the pistol really well. Now, one of the big things about this handgun, which I really love because a lot of guns are going to this, is the modular system. And there is a chassis in here, and we'll look at that when we break the pistol down. But it allows you to replace this frame with a totally different color without going through any paperwork. They run about $50 on the Beretta website, and of course you can look around. They're less expensive in other places. Now, when I had the full-size version, which Gun Pro Deals sent it to me for the review, I sent it back because I knew that I was going to keep the Centurion once I got the Centurion. And I did change out for an FDE frame, but there's a gray, an OD, the FDE, and of course the black. And you can switch out even these back panels if you want to kind of make another contrast, which looks nice. But, you know, it makes it really easy. Now, one of the big things too about that is if I want to switch out the grip panels, you know, it almost gives me a totally different gun. But one of the advantages the Centurion has, even over the full size, is that you can switch out the grip frame for the compact. The slide and everything up top is the same. It's 3.7-inch barrel for both. The slides are exactly the same dimension. And so that gives you some options to go with a little bit of a shorter grip frame, and so then it makes it a little more concealable. There's just a small difference between these two. And here you can see we have 13-in-1 in the compact, we have 15. So that's going to give you 2 more rounds, but yet it's going to come down just a little bit. But it does give you a full grip on the pistol. Now, this gun is unloaded, but we're going to go ahead and visually check it. And so, you know, the thing is that, you know, it's not a big difference. In fact, when I first kind of started contemplating these two, I was like, really? I mean, it's not a big difference, but that can make a difference if you're going to carry this every day. And that's one of the things that I've found about pistols is, you know, you need to be super comfortable with whatever you carry. Because I know a lot of times if I'm going somewhere and I'm checking myself, you know, I want to make sure that my gun's not printing. I want to make sure that it's in the right place. And so this gives you just a little bit more confidence in carrying. But a lot of guys are bigger, they've had bigger frames, and they just can carry a larger pistol. And so I think this gives you somewhat of an option. But I can pay $50, buy my grip frame, put a compact on here, and then when I want to go to the range or I just want to switch back out, I can do it. I can go with different colors. And that's really cool that these two interchange in that way. But honestly, guys, other than that, there is no difference between these two pistols. Again, the 9mm does carry 15-in-1. In the 40 caliber of the Centurion, it's 13-in-1. Now, obviously, the slide is one of those things that either you like it or you don't. And the reason why is because when I put these on Instagram, somebody mentions about the slide, they don't really care for it. And that's the beauty of all the different firearms that we have. You know, there's a lot of choices. And there's a lot of good quality choices. One of the things, though, I like is no matter where I grab this handgun, the slide, it allows me to rack it. So it gives me a lot of options, more than about any other handgun. And the serrations themselves, they're not too aggressive. I mean, they're good and solid. They'll give you a little bit of a bite. I mean, you know you have them, but they don't just jam your hand up. So I think it's really nice to have that option. The sights are a 3-dot sight, and they are dovetailed both front and rear. And again, you know, there's going to be a lot of options if they're not already. It does have a square off trigger guard. It is smooth, but if you like that, you know, there's still a lot of guys that like to shoot that way. Me personally, I don't care, but it does have an enlarged trigger guard, so that allows for gloved hands. Now, the Glock 19 seems to be the size that everybody looks for. It just hits that sweet spot. It's kind of like a full-size shooting gun, and yet it's concealable. It is considered a compact. Now, that's one of the things to me that the APX has really done is hit that size. Now, as far as the frame, it comes all the way back to here. But, guys, I'm telling you, it actually is a little less than the Glock 19. And it's not by much, maybe 1/8 of an inch, maybe 1/4 of an inch. But it is just a touch smaller. I believe this is a 4-inch barrel in the Glock, 3.7 in the Centurion. The grip is the same. I mean, they are right on par. So I really feel that the Beretta Centurion has finally hit that sweet spot. Most of your compact guns that have tried to get to this size usually have a little bit of a length here somewhere that's just a little bit off. And guys, you know, it's pretty infinitesimal. I mean, if you're really looking for a good concealed carry, there's a lot of good options out there. But this just demonstrates that the APX Centurion has met that kind of parameter. And I think it's just a perfect gun, again, for just taking out to the range and yet for concealed carry as well. It's one of those things that if you could only have one handgun, this would be the size that I personally would look for. Weight on the Centurion, 1 pound, 10.8 ounces. Weight on the Glock G19 Gen 5, 1 pound, 8.2 ounces. So there's definitely a couple of ounce difference. But here's what's fascinating. The slide of the APX that includes the barrel and the recoil spring is 1 pound, 0.8 ounce. The Glock G19 with the barrel and recoil spring, 1.08 ounces. The difference is in the frame. Because of the modular frame, you have much beefier slide rails than the Glock, and that's one of the issues. That's the reason why this is 2 ounces more. Now check the magazine. Gun is unloaded. Now we do have our blade safety, which is typical for a lot of striker fire pistols. Just blocks the action unless you get a full finger on the trigger. So we're going to try the trigger pull. A little bit of take up, just right there. And then a decent break. It's not super crisp, but it's not bad. Reset right there. Then back on it. Really, honestly, probably pretty similar to your standard Glock trigger, except that the reset's really close, and of course the take-up is very little. But this will allow you to really get really fast follow-up shots. Let's check the trigger pull weight with our Lyman trigger gauge from Brownells. 4 pounds, 12.4 ounces. 5 pounds, 1 ounce. 4 pounds, 12.9 ounces. So just under the 5 pound mark. Now one thing that's unique with the Beretta is this small little post here. And you'll notice that when you pull the trigger, it actually lifts this up. This is part of your trigger safety. And the Beretta 92 has a similar, a little bit different in style. And there we go. One thing though that some people have mentioned is that if you hold this down, which I can't imagine anybody holding this down while the gun is being fired, that will keep it from firing. But if you just do a light pull of the trigger, it's not going to fire. But even though I'm holding down really tight, I can still do it. And it hurts my finger. And I want to thank Fiocchi for supplying the 9mm ammo. We've got some 115 grain full metal jacket, and we've got quite a bit. So we're going to put this little Centurion through its paces. And I just realized I have my Ludo loader. Much easier. But these mags are not difficult to load anyway. Now to me, my favorite part about the APX is how flat they shoot. They do have the low bore axis, which helps with felt recoil. It keeps the muzzle in line. It makes it easier to get your second and third follow-up shots. And one of the things about that is, and I'm going to demonstrate about low bore axis, is that it rides really close to your hand. And so there's not as much mass flipping the muzzle up. So if you take a gun and you fire it like this, it's going to be wild. The closer you get up to the bore, the more control that you have over the firearm. And that's one of the great things about the APX. It just shoots flat. You know, it's the ergonomics, the grip is textured in the right places. And I love the front and back strap. That's really where you grab it. That's where you get most of your control and to master the handgun. And the APX is just right. It's not too aggressive, but yet it gives you a good feel in the hand. But yet the side panels are also fairly aggressive, just to be able to hold it, especially when you're using that two-hand grip. And so, you know, and then of course racking the slide. I mean, it just makes it so easy with those serrations. Doesn't matter where you grab it, anywhere on the slide, you're going to be able to rack it. And so that's another big plus. You may not like the design the way it looks because it's different. And you know, that usually kind of plays into it. But guys, the more that I have messed with these APX pistols, the more I like it. It seems to be a little bit wider, and something about those serrations make it look thicker, but it's not. I mean, it's the same size as your standard, most of your standard slides. Now again, over the compact model, it does give you a little bit more room right here, but it's not really that much. So to me, it's not going to affect concealed carry unless you just really want to kind of trim down a little bit of that magazine well grip. It's not really going to affect the concealability of this handgun by much. I mean, it's just a tiny bit as we've shown. But I really like that the Centurion, you get a full solid grip on the handgun. Now to change out the grip frame and to move your magazine release to the other side, and also to remove the panels for your back strap. I have a separate video that demonstrates all of that, and I'll have it linked right here. It just keeps this video from being so long. But if you want to get into all that, it's really simple to do. But what we're going to do now is go ahead and break the pistol down. I'm going to drop my magazine in, check to make sure the gun is unloaded. Now, we have our takedown lever here, but you need to press this button right here to release your slide release. It is kind of tight, and a lot of people have just complained and gone over the top that this is just way too hard. But got it pressed, bring the lever down. That was not difficult. One thing though I do want to show you is that you have to pull the trigger, or you have to disengage the striker to be able to take the slide off. Right here at the back, you can press with a punch. You can see the little divot. You just push it in and it will deactivate the striker. Guys, to be honest with you, I have not gotten it to disengage. But that is supposed to be the way you just disengage it. But we're going to go ahead and just pull the trigger and pull the slide right off. Here we have our recoil spring and guide rod. It is dual, and it is a steel guide rod. That really helps with felt recoil. And then of course we have our barrel system, and then the slide. Very well executed. I mean, Beretta does a fantastic job, and again, they've been in business for over 500 years. They've perfected a lot of things. But here is the big thing I want you to take a look at. Look at the rails on this handgun. I mean, the frame rails are just incredible, and this is the chassis. And so you're going to get a lot more of a smooth action. I think it has a lot to do too with the reason why that this handgun shoots so flat. There's just a lot of surface between the slide and the frame right there with those slide rails. Now again, this whole module comes out, and I did demonstrate that on this other video, which you can look at. But you just pop out your slide stop, and then you push in here to get this relieved, and then everything pulls out. Then you can change it to the different colors of your grip frame, and so it really makes it very modular. That's all you need to do to field strip the handgun. To reassemble, just in reverse order, drop in our barrel, recoil spring and guide rod, slide it back. Now when you slide it back, if you do it with a little bit of force, there it goes. The slide stop will run back up. The retail price on the APX is $575. I've seen it in a number of places for around the $500 range, and for Beretta quality, that is, you know, just what typically they're going for. The grip frames on the Beretta website are $50. I think I've seen a number of them for around the $40 mark, and again, you get them in the FDE, the gray, the black, and OD. Now these are good quality factory magazines. I got the 17 rounders from Gun Mag Warehouse, and I believe these were $31.95 for the magazines. So it's a great price, and they did send me some extras for this test, so I really appreciate them sending them. Now I want to thank Beretta for sending the Centurion for this test and evaluation, also just to be able to compare it with the compact and the full size. This is my favorite out of the three. I like the in-between. I like that it's concealable, and yet it still has that same full-size feel to it. 15-in-1, you know, even the compact, even though it goes down to 13, that's still a very good option to be able to carry. But you know, Beretta to me is doing it right. The great thing is there's a ton of different options out there, and it's really neat to see something that steps a little bit outside the norm. You know, yes, going with that modular frame, which of course, you know, the SIG P320 does, but with that just super nice, aggressive grip with the wide serrations, no matter where you grab it, this is an excellent choice if you're looking for, you know, either a concealed carry handgun, or you want the full size, or the compact. Gives you some choices. And again, I want to thank Sportsman's Guide for their sponsorship. Again, use Such in the coupon code, you get $20 off on a $100 purchase. Be strong, be of good courage. God bless America. Long live the Republic. I got these off of gunmagwarehouse.com. They were $34. I don't remember. One thing about this over. So why does the whole line of dirt? Because when it hits the steel, it shatters. And